The ruthless billionaire came to tear the hospital down, but one glance at 3 crying children changed everything. Hey there, listener. Before we dive into this story, comment below where you're watching from. Brandon Stone sat in his big black car. The leather seats felt cold against his expensive suit. Outside, New York City rushed by like a blur of gray buildings and honking cars. Brandon was rich. Very, very rich. He was among the top 10 billionaires in New York. His company bought old buildings and knocked them down. Then he built fancy new places where only rich people could live. Today was just another day to make more money. "Sir, we're here," his driver said. Brandon looked up at Metropolitan Hospital. The building was old and worn down. Paint peeled off the walls like dead skin. Some windows had cracks running through them. "Perfect," Brandon said with a cold smile. "This dump will make us millions." He stepped out of his car. His shiny black shoes clicked on the sidewalk. 3 men in dark suits followed him. They were his lawyers. They carried thick folders full of papers. "Mr. Stones," Mr. Roberts, his head lawyer, called out as he walked towards him. "The hospital board is waiting. Once you sign these papers, this place is yours." Brandon nodded. He had done this many times before. Buy the building, kick everyone out, tear it down, build something new and expensive, make lots of money. "How much will we make?" Brandon asked. "About $50 million, Mr. Roberts said. "Maybe more." They walked into the hospital. The smell hit Brandon right away. The floors were old and scratched. He couldn't understand how humans are comfortable receiving treatment in such an environment. People in white coats ran around everywhere. Some looked tired. Others looked worried. Sick people sat in chairs waiting to see doctors. "This place is falling apart," Brandon said. "We're doing everyone a favor by tearing it down." Mr. Roberts nodded. "The new condos will be beautiful." Brandon didn't care about the sick people. He didn't care about the doctors trying to help them. All he saw was money. They walked down a long hallway. Brandon's shoes made loud noises on the floor. He looked at his gold watch. The meeting would start in 10 minutes. "After we sign the papers, how long until we can start tearing this place down?" Brandon asked. 6 months, Mr. Roberts said. "The hospital has to find a new place. Then we can bring in the bulldozers." Brandon smiled. Bulldozers were his favorite machines. They could knock down anything. Big buildings, small buildings, old buildings, new buildings. Nothing could stop them. "What about the people who work here?" asked one of the other lawyers. Brandon shrugged. "Not my problem. They can find new jobs somewhere else." The hallway seemed to go on forever. They passed room after room. Through some doors, Brandon could see sick people lying in beds. Machines beeped and flashed around them. "Sir, the meeting room is just ahead," Mr. Roberts said. Brandon and his lawyers kept walking down the hospital hallway. Their footsteps echoed off the walls. The meeting room was getting closer. Then Brandon heard something that made him stop. Someone crying. Not just any crying. This was the sound of children sobbing like their whole world was ending. The sound came from a room nearby. "What's that noise?" Brandon asked. Mr. Roberts looked annoyed. "Just some kids. Let's keep moving. We're almost late." But Brandon couldn't move. The crying was so sad it made his chest feel tight. He had never heard anything like it. "Sir, we really need to go," another lawyer added. Brandon held up his hand. "Wait, I'll be right back." He walked toward the crying sound. It came from room 304. What he saw made his heart stop. 3 little children sat on plastic chairs outside a hospital room. They looked exactly the same. Triplets. 2 girls and 1 boy. They all had dark hair and big brown eyes filled with tears. The kids were maybe 7 years old. The boy wore a Superman t-shirt that had a hole in it. One of the girls had pigtails with dirty ribbons. The other girl clutched a stuffed bunny with 1 ear missing. But it wasn't just that they were crying. It was how they were crying, like they had lost everything in the world and had no hope. Brandon peeped into the room. A woman lay there with tubes and wires everywhere. Machines beeped around her. She was very thin and pale. Her eyes were closed. This had to be their mother, he thought. "Kids, you need to be quiet," a nurse said as she walked by. "Other patients are trying to rest." But the children couldn't stop crying. They were too scared and sad. "Sir, we're 5 minutes late," Mr. Roberts whispered. "The hospital board is waiting." Brandon ignored him. He kept watching the children. A doctor came out of the room. He looked tired and sad. He knelt down in front of the triplets. "Kids, I need to talk to you about your mom," the doctor said gently. "Is she going to get better?" Sophia asked with hope in her voice. The doctor's face told them everything. "I'm sorry, sweethearts. The cancer is too strong. Your mom doesn't have much time left." Elena dropped her bunny. Diego put his hands over his face. Sophia started crying so hard she couldn't breathe. "But who will take care of us?" Diego asked. The doctor looked even sadder. "We're trying to figure that out. Do you have any family? Grandparents? Aunts or uncles?" All three children shook their heads. Beloved listener, may your health never fail you in the moments when your loved ones need you most. May sickness be far from you, and may your days be long and full of strength. Click the subscribe button to claim this prayer for yourself. "It's just us and Mama," Sophia said. "It's always been just us." Brandon felt like someone had punched him in the chest. These kids had nobody. Their mom was dying, and they would be all alone. "What happens to children with no family?" Elena asked in a tiny voice. The doctor didn't want to answer. "There are places, foster homes, people who help kids like you." But Brandon could see the truth in the doctor's eyes. These kids would be split up, sent to different homes. They might never see each other again. "I want to stay with my brother and sister," Sophia said, grabbing Diego and Elena's hands. "We'll try our best," the doctor said, but he didn't sound sure. Brandon watched the three little faces. They were so scared, so lost, so alone. For the first time in his life, money didn't matter. His big business deal didn't matter. All he could think about was these crying children. "Mr. Stones," Mr. Roberts said louder. "We need to go, now. Go without me," Brandon replied without looking at him. "What, sir? This is a $50 million deal. I said go without me," he repeated, raising his voice. Mr. Roberts looked shocked. Brandon had never missed a business meeting. Ever. Money was the most important thing in his world. But something had changed. Just looking at Sophia, Diego, and Elena, Brandon felt his cold heart crack open. He felt pain. Not his pain. Their pain. And he couldn't walk away. Brandon stood frozen in the hallway. His lawyers had left without him. The hospital board was probably angry, but he couldn't move his feet. The three children kept crying. Their sobs echoed in his ears. "Excuse me," Brandon said softly to the doctor. "How much time does their mother have?" The doctor looked surprised. Rich men in fancy suits usually didn't ask about poor patients. "Maybe a week," the doctor said sadly. "Maybe less. The cancer has spread everywhere." Brandon felt sick. 1 week. 7 days. That's all these kids had left with their mom. "What about the medical bills?" Brandon asked. The doctor shook his head. "Over $200,000. The family has no insurance, no money left. We're treating her anyway," but he didn't finish. Brandon understood. The hospital would demand payment. The family would lose everything. "I need to make a phone call," Brandon said. He walked to a quiet corner and dialed his assistant. "Margaret, cancel all my meetings for the rest of the week." "Sir, even the Tokyo deal?" Margaret asked across the phone. "Cancel everything." He walked back to room 304. The triplets were still crying, but quieter now, like they were running out of tears. "Hey," Brandon said gently, kneeling down. "What are your names?" "Hey," Brandon said gently, kneeling down. "What are your names?" Sophia looked up with red puffy eyes. "I'm Sophia. This is my brother Diego and my sister Elena." "I'm Brandon," he said. "I heard about your mom. I'm really sorry." Diego wiped his nose. "Are you a doctor?" "No, I help people." It wasn't exactly true, but it felt right. Elena held up her broken bunny. "Mr. Bunny is scared too." Brandon's heart squeezed. "What's Mr. Bunny scared of?" "That we'll have to go to different houses," Elena whispered, "and never see each other again." Before Brandon could answer, a woman in a gray suit appeared. She had a clipboard and a stern face. "Children, I'm Mrs. Patterson from Social Services. We need to discuss your future." The triplets grabbed each other's hands tighter. "What happens to them?" Brandon asked. Mrs. Patterson looked at him suspiciously. "And you are?" "A friend," Brandon said quickly. "Well, friend, these children will enter the foster care system. We'll try to keep them together, but it's difficult. 3 children at once is challenging." "What do you mean challenging?" Sophia asked, her voice shaking. Mrs. Patterson's face softened slightly. "Most families can only take 1 or 2 children. We might have to place you in separate homes." "No," Diego shouted. "We stay together. We promised Mama." I understand, but there has to be another way, Brandon interrupted. Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow. Unless someone adopts all three immediately, they'll be separated within days. Brandon felt panic rising in his chest. What if someone wanted to adopt them? All three? That person would need to pass background checks, home inspections, financial evaluations. The process takes months. We want to stay with Mama, Sophia cried. Mrs. Patterson looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, dear. We are doing this to help. After she left, Brandon sat with the children. They were scared and confused. Will you visit us? Elena asked. In our new houses? Brandon's throat felt tight. I'll try. But he knew the truth. Once these kids disappeared into the system, finding them would be nearly impossible. That night, Brandon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking and worrying about kids. He pulls out his phone and dials a number. Mr. Roberts, I need to adopt 3 children, immediately. Sir, are you feeling all right? Yesterday you missed a very important meeting, and now you want to adopt children? Can it be done quickly? Brandon asked, ignoring Robert's questions. Adoption? That takes months, maybe years. You'd need home studies, interviews, psychological evaluations. Brandon hung up. The system was too slow. The children didn't have time. The next morning, he returned to the hospital. The triplets were sleeping in uncomfortable chairs next to their mother's bed. Their mother was awake. She looked at Brandon with tired eyes. Who are you? She whispered. Hi, I'm so sorry to bother you, but Brandon narrated the whole incident of yesterday to her. Later that day, Mrs. Patterson returned with bad news. I found placements for the children. Diego goes to a family in Queens. Sophia and Elena will go to different homes in Brooklyn. Different homes? Sophia screamed. You promised we could stay together. I tried, but when? Brandon demanded. Tomorrow, she replied. The children burst into tears. Their worst nightmare was becoming real. Brandon felt something break inside him. These innocent kids were about to lose everything. Their mother, each other, their whole world. And the system didn't care. Brandon paced back and forth in the hospital hallway. His shoes squeaked on the floor. Tomorrow, the triplets would be taken away from each other forever. He had to do something. But what? His phone rang. It was his business partner, Mr. Williams. Brandon, what's wrong with you? You've missed 3 major deals this week. The Tokyo investors are furious. I have something important to take care of right now. Every other thing can wait, Brandon said. Are you being serious right now? This company is your life. We're losing millions. Brandon looked through the window at Sophia, Diego, and Elena. They were holding hands, having a conversation. Some things are more important than money, Brandon said. Mr. Williams was quiet for a long moment. Who are you, and what did you do with Brandon Stones? Brandon hung up. His business needs him. But he doesn't care about that right now. He walked into room 304. The triplets sat close to their mom's bed. Mama, we don't want to go to different houses, Sophia said, holding her mother's hand. Tears clouded her eyes as she pulled Sophia in for a hug. Can't you ask God to make you better? Diego asked. Jenny smiled sadly. I already did, baby. And I'm sure that in his own timing, he'll show himself. Elena climbed onto the bed carefully. Will you still watch us from heaven? Brandon felt tears in his eyes. He had never cried as a grown man before, not even when his own parents died. Suddenly, Jenny started coughing, hard. Blood came out of her mouth. Get the doctor, Sophia screamed. Brandon ran to find help. When the doctor arrived, he looked very worried. Children, you need to step outside, the doctor said. No, we want to stay with Mama, Diego cried. It's okay, Jenny said weakly. Give Mama a few minutes. The triplets kissed their mother and walked into the hallway. They were shaking with fear. Brandon knelt down beside them. Hey, it's going to be okay. No, it's not, Elena sobbed. Tomorrow we'll be in different houses. We'll never see each other again, Sophia added. Ever, Diego whispered. No, Brandon said firmly. That's not going to happen. But Mrs. Patterson said, Sophia started. I don't care what she said. You 3 are staying together. Brandon interrupted her. Sophia looked at him with hope in her eyes. How? I'm going to adopt all 3 of you. Right now. Dear listener, are you proud of Mr. Brandon Stones just as I am? If yes, show your support by subscribing to this channel. Otherwise, comment below why you are not moved by his decision. But that's a long process, Sophia reminded him. Not if you have enough money and the right lawyers. Brandon pulled out his phone. He called his most powerful lawyer. David, I need you to arrange an emergency adoption tonight. Brandon, that's not how. I don't care how it usually works. I have 3 children who need a home immediately. Make it happen. It would take bribes, favors, calling in every connection we have. Do it, he responded. This could cost millions. I said do it, he repeated. Brandon hung up and called his bank. I need $200,000 transferred to Metropolitan Hospital immediately for patient Jenny Santos. Sir, that's a lot of money for. Just do it. Next, he called his real estate agent. I need to buy a house, today. Big enough for 3 children. The best neighborhood in Manhattan. I'll pay double for any inconveniences this would cost. Cash, he added. Brandon was like a man possessed. He made call after call, his assistant, his accountant, his connections in the government. The triplets watched with wide eyes. Is he really going to adopt us? Elena whispered. I think so, Sophia said. But why would he want to? Diego shrugged. Maybe he's lonely too. Hours passed. Brandon's phone rang constantly. Lawyers, judges, social workers, everyone owed him favors, and he was collecting them all. Mrs. Patterson arrived, looking confused. Mr. Stones, I received some very unusual calls. Apparently you want to adopt these children? Not want. Going to. He corrected her. Brandon's lawyer David arrived with a stack of papers. I pulled every string I have, David said. Emergency custody papers. The judge signed them 20 minutes ago. The adoption can be finalized tomorrow. Mrs. Patterson's mouth fell open. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible when you have the right connection, Brandon said. He turned to the triplets. Sophia, Diego, Elena, would you like to come live with me? The children looked at each other in disbelief. Will we stay together? Sophia asked. Forever, Brandon answered. Will you love us even if we're sad sometimes? Elena asked. Brandon knelt down and looked into their eyes. I will love you no matter what. You're my family now. The triplets hugged each other. Then they hugged Brandon. For the first time in his life, Brandon felt complete. The doctor came out of Jenny's room. He was smiling. She wants to see you all? She heard the good news. They walked into the room. Jenny was weak but happy. Thank you, she whispered to Brandon. You saved my babies. No, Brandon said, they saved me. 3 days later, their mom closed her eyes for the last time. She died peacefully, knowing her children would stay together. Brandon held Sophia, Diego, and Elena as they cried. He didn't try to stop their tears, he just held them tight. Mama's not hurting anymore, Sophia whispered. She's watching us from heaven, Diego added. Elena hugged her broken bunny. I miss her so much. I know, Brandon said softly. I miss her too. The funeral was small but beautiful. Brandon paid for everything. Fresh flowers everywhere. A pretty white casket. A peaceful cemetery with beautiful trees. The triplets wore new black clothes. Brandon held their hands as they said goodbye to their mother. We'll visit her every Sunday, Brandon promised. After the funeral, Brandon took the children to their new home. It was a huge house, big windows, a beautiful garden, rooms full of sunlight. This is all ours? Elena asked, her eyes wide. All ours, Brandon said. Each child got their own bedroom. Sophia's room was painted pink with a bookshelf full of stories. Diego's room was blue with superhero posters. Elena's room was purple with a toy chest full of stuffed animals. I got you a new bunny, Brandon said, handing Elena a fluffy white rabbit. But you can keep Mr. Bunny too, he added, smiling happily. Elena hugged both bunnies. Thank you, Daddy Brandon. Daddy Brandon. The words made his heart feel warm. But being a father wasn't easy. Brandon had to learn everything. He hired a nanny named Mrs. Garcia to help with the kids. She was kind and patient. She taught Brandon how to braid Sophia's hair and help Diego with homework. 6 months later, Brandon turned Metropolitan Hospital into a charity clinic to help those who couldn't afford to pay medical bills. At bedtime, the children always said the same prayer. Thank you, God, for sending us Daddy Brandon, and please tell Mama we're okay. Brandon tucked them in and kissed their foreheads. Sweet dreams, my angels. Sometimes the universe has a way of putting us exactly where we need to be, even when we don't want to be there. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to see more amazing stories of hope and kindness. Or tell us in the comments what story you'd like to hear next. Here's hoping you'd listen to my next story too. Lots of love.